Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome in. Thank you for joining me. Another premium live stream, which we're opening up to everyone because we're in the middle of our Cyber Monday sale. As you probably know, you've probably got a few emails about it. You've seen our Discord posts. You've seen maybe our social media posts. It's our biggest sale of the year. And this year it was a deeper discount than I was anticipating we would do. But there's a lot of uncertainty in the year ahead, as we're all aware. But there's also a lot of opportunity. Prediction market space is blowing up. We're building tools and building out our screens to accommodate for that. And so we wanted to offer a very attractive discount for the year ahead because with all the uncertainty, with all of the FOMO and all those emotions that people will have, we wanted to make sure that did I spend too much for Unabated wasn't one of them. So deep discount in order to get your commitment for the next year. It's basically 5 months free. You're paying for 7 months. You're getting 5 months free in your subscription. So I appreciate all of you who have taken advantage of that. And for those of you who might not have taken advantage or might still be wondering what it is that Unabated Premium can really do, well, that's why I'm doing this live stream and opening it up to everyone, because I'm going to go over some of our tools that maybe get overlooked, maybe aren't as obvious, but I actually use every day, and I mean that. I use different tools different days, and I'm going to get into that a little bit too. But wanted to also start out by saying, running a little promotion during this live stream. And here's the promotion. I will personally send you an Unabated t-shirt if you send to me your receipt from Unabated on something you've purchased starting today until at least 5 people have sent this to me. My email address there on the screen, jack@unabated.com. And so if you send me your Unabated receipt for something you purchased today, and if less than 5 people get to that today, we'll let it go on. But send me your receipt, whether that be the Cyber Monday deal. Maybe you're just going to give college football projections a try. Maybe you're going to give the NBA projections a try. I think the cheapest thing on our website is the NBA DFS projections. I don't know if somebody's desperate to get a t-shirt. Let me show you I got 2 options for you for t-shirts. I'll let you choose. I am limited in some sizes though. So if you're XXL, you probably don't have that size anymore. But first one is our classic Unabated t-shirt. It's got the Unabated logo on the back as well. Somebody said this kind of looks like a superhero shirt. Sorry, it's a little wrinkled. These are packed in a box. So we have that one that's gray with the green writing. And then we have the one we gave out at the member meetup this year. Premium members are always invited to our member meetup in Vegas that we have during Bet Bash week. And we give out a t-shirt at that. And so those of you who came this year to that member meetup, they got this t-shirt. And I have like 6 or 7 of these left. So this is the You Don't Know Jack t-shirt. So this is a kind of a dark blue with white writing. All of our t-shirts are always really high quality. People always comment like, wow, that's like the softest, nicest t-shirt I have. Yeah, we spend a little bit extra to get the high quality stuff. So again, send that to jack@unabated.com if you have a receipt from today onward. And if you're one of the first 5, I will personally be mailing you out a t-shirt. So go ahead and do that, and hope to see my inbox flooded by the time I get off this live stream. Okay, so we got the chat going on down there. I will be responding to that chat here as we go along, but let me get started into giving you some actual alpha, as the kids say. Never been a fan of that phrase, alpha. Like, I understand what it is. It's, information that is leading to something. Quality information is alpha. It just doesn't seem like the right word. But okay, let's get started here. So we have our odds screen, and the odd screen, like Unabated is one of those tools where you get out of it what you're willing to put into it in terms of exploring different things and looking in markets and trying to find ways to solve the logic puzzle that is sports betting. And for a lot of people, they don't want to think. They want picks. They want to be spoon-fed. And there are other platforms out there that kind of cash in on people like that, but I don't think there's a lot of profit to be made that way. You're just basically speeding the plow towards a limited account when you're picking off the things that 1,000 other people are also being alerted to. The value in sports betting is finding the angles, finding the inefficiencies that maybe aren't so obvious, but there are dozens out there every day. And I think I've been saying that for the 5 years that we've been running Unabated, and it's never not true. Like, there's always new inefficiencies. I actually found one yesterday that I'm probably not going to talk about in detail because it's only available at one book that I could find so far. But I was like, wow, how is this sort of thing still around? But okay, but let's get started here. I want to get started because everyone looks at the odds screen. And if you are any tier other than concierge, these are not going to represent alt lines. Concierge has a toggle that they can turn on that allows them to see the best line, whether it's the main line or an alt line, in the odds screen, which is very valuable because there's often a lot of hidden value in alts in various sports. Just to go through one that I'm sure is going to be there, I'm going to switch over to college basketball. And we have some value out there right off the top, but if we go to like this Wright State, Youngstown State game, I think those are both Ohio schools. I was going to say I have no idea where those schools are, but I think they're both in Ohio. You can click on any book here and then click this button up here, which is the alts. And I'm going to think ahead and move my head out of the way. Let me move over here. And I'm going to take down the chat window there for a second. 1 second. Turn that off. All right, you can click on any line here, like here's Bookmaker, and you can see the alt prices. And you're going, Jack, those are all negative 5% edges. And you are correct. And you can go to another sharp book, and you can see Pinnacle, and they got even more alts. And those are also, there's a couple that are a thin minus 1.5% edge if you're looking for a losing bet. But no, not that great. Let's go to DraftKings here, and I got some. What is going on down here? We have a plethora of green positive EV situations, and this is quite common that you will find plus EV bets hidden in the alts. Now, can you bet alts straight away? With a 5% edge and not get limited? No, you probably can't, but that's where the art of sports betting comes into play. So think about to yourself, what are some ways that I could bet at DraftKings that make me look a little bit more recreational? Well, you could parlay some of those alts together. That's an opportunity. If you live within proximity of a DraftKings kiosk, these are available at the kiosk, and you can probably bet. You won't be able to bet big money, but you can bet multiple times, and there's enough of these that you could bet a couple here, take a walk, come back later, bet a couple. Be careful with that. DraftKings is known to lock tickets if they detect that there's multiple duplicate bets by someone. That they often have a little sign on their kiosk saying you're not allowed to duplicate bet to overcome limits. But if you then take both of that last two suggestions there, where I said parlay and then bet a kiosk, and if you were to make basically round robin parlays, you are still getting a fair amount of EV down on a positive EV bet. While parlaying it with a different team in each ticket, they can't say those are duplicate tickets. So there's always a way around stuff like this, but that's just DraftKings. I'm not saying that DraftKings is the only book where you can find plus EV alts. I've seen them pop up at the sweep sites and the exchange sites, No Big and Profit and Fliff and places like that. You just have to kind of poke around. Now, again, if you're concierge, it pops it up right on the screen for you, and you can find it very easily. You can also use Edge Rusher, but this isn't a promotion for concierge. This is really a promotion for the premium. So poke around here. I was just trying to see if we could pop up another one here. Hard Rock's usually good, not on this game. Again, I don't like to spoon feed anyone, but this is something that is available in premium and is really something that's available only at Unabated. The other sites do not have the data science that we have to correctly calculate the value of half points through a wide range of numbers like we do. I know a lot of pro bettors out there would say, well, I'll just go to Pinnacle and I'll just use their drop down and see what the prices should be for the alts. Well, that's fine, except for, we're looking at the right stake game. Pinnacle stops at 5.5, and the DraftKings plus EV edges start at like 7.5. And the reason is because DraftKings probably uses Pinnacle and then just extrapolates it out. But you can't extrapolate out edges. I don't want to go into too much detail to tip off too many people, but that's a lousy way to do it. And it looks like that's what DraftKings does. It's a shame they just don't have the money to buy good data scientists. So, okay, that's one thing that I do daily. Find a lot of edges, find ways around it. And again, I'm not always betting at DraftKings. There's plenty of other books out there that I look into and find those edges. And it's out there. Another thing I do is, we used to, and this is not something I do necessarily every Wednesday. I do this usually on Fridays, is look into college football. And if you notice, you can go to the first half, and we used to have an unabated line for first half and a best line and all that stuff. And we had an issue, which if you mouse over here, you would get the message saying that we had a problem with home and away being flipped in a lot of situations. And as a result, we weren't able to correctly calculate this for the screen. That doesn't mean that our standalone tool doesn't work. It does work. So one of the things you need to be careful of, especially this time of year, is that there's going to be some neutral site games out there with the conference playoffs this week, and then with bowl games coming. But Troy, James Madison, we're going to use that one as an example. So go back to the full game here, go back to the combined view, and we see that it's James Madison minus 23, a total of 48 on the game, which that right there. So there should be bells going off in your head. Ding, 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 ding. This is one of those correlated parlay type of situations. I'm not going to get into that, but anytime you see a large spread and a lowish total, correlated parlay situation. So you should look into that and find a book that might let you do it, might not, might let you. It's such an obvious move, though. It's not like it's art of sports betting whatsoever. Let's go to the partial game derivative calculator. CFB, first half, spread. And we are going to say the home team is a 23-point favorite. We'll just put in the no vig price there. And full game total was 48. And the first half, I didn't show you that. 1 second, let's go back, because this is the real reason I picked that game. Come back to that in a second. First half, spread. If you look at this Troy James Madison game, this is the reason we got Bookmaker with 14, Pinnacle with 11.5, Circa with 13, 12.5, 12.5, all over the map, right? All over the map as to what the price should be in the first half. So what we're going to be able to do with the partial game derivative calculator that's available to premium subscribers is price out each one of those first half spreads. And so back to the calculator we go. Home team minus 23. Full game total 48. So let's start with minus 14, which was the price at Bookmaker. And I'm just going to kind of jot these down as they come up. So the home team should be minus 126 at minus 14 first half. We saw there was an 11.5 out there at Pinnacle. And that should be minus 166. That was at 11.5. And go to, I think 12.5 was out there at FanDuel and DraftKings. That should be minus 157. Did I put these incorrect? Because this is coming up a little higher than I remember last time I checked. Let's go back and make sure I'm doing this correct. First half spread, 14. And what was that full game? Full game spread minus 23. Yep. And full game total was 48. Yep. Okay. Everything's in there correctly. All right. So this comes out to, yeah, it was minus 12.5 was minus 157. So now I'll go back to those first half spreads that are out there, and you can see it should be minus 14, minus 126, according to the calculator. And 11.5 would be minus 166. These numbers are pretty far off. So there's some edges out there to be had in first halves. Now, again, I don't typically bet these on Wednesday. This is more of a thing that I would do later in the week. The reason I do it later in the week is because this is a derivative. And anytime you have a derivative, you want the most efficient baseline, which is the game total and spread, that you can get. So you typically wait till the market is more efficient to price out the derivatives and find the value there. But definitely some value on the first half total, first half spreads in that game. You can look over some of the other games that are out there as well. I think you're going to find that there is some value out there. All right, let's see what the questions are looking like. I'll put them back on the screen here. People like that. I'll put my face back over here and go through some of the questions that have been asked so far. And then I got a couple other things that I'll show you guys and take any more questions. If somebody wins the t-shirt, I'll buy it from them. I'm already locked in with Unabated until 2027. The t-shirts are high quality. All right. That's a generous offer. We should probably give away more t-shirts. It's just we don't really have anyone that handles like promotions and marketing like that. And it's a lot of effort to coordinate, get addresses, pack them up, take them to the post office, pay the postage, which is kind of outrageous. For sending a cheap little t-shirt, we spend more in postage to get you the t-shirt than we spend on making the t-shirt. So people always ask me, why don't we have more merch? We don't want to lose money. I don't think you can come ahead selling merch. And that's a reason why when you go to some of these big YouTube channels that have huge merch stores, you have to do it at huge scale in order to break even. And even then, you're selling like a t-shirt for $30. I don't know. I don't really think a t-shirt should be worth $30. So one of the ways we get around that is we hand out a t-shirt every year at our member meetup. Saves us on the shipping and saves us on the hassle of coordinating, who's what size and all this stuff. So that's worked out well. Wish we did more meetups. Definitely would like to do more meetups. It's just one of those things we just don't have anyone central to coordinate all of that. And so we put up that meetup channel, hoping that people would just kind of plan their own meetups. But I think people need a little bit of a encouragement from some central source to make those work. We want to learn how to fish. Good analogy there. Yeah. You can teach a man to fish. You feed him for a lifetime. Give a man a fish. Feed him for that day. All right. Does the odds screen have anything for MMA or alts or props for MMA? Not yet. We will be adding MMA in the next year. Here's the thing, some straight talk about betting MMA. You're betting into the biggest variance out there. And anytime you have big variance, you have the ability to convince yourself in one way or another based on small sample size. In other words, you might win big 2 or 3 times in MMA and think, I got this. I'm just, I know MMA. But really, MMA has some of the biggest swings when it comes to who should win a match and who actually does win a match and how they win the match, because it's just one stray elbow or kick or whatever, and the match just swings wildly. So MMA is a really tough sport. I remember talking to Adam Bjorn one time, and he had said that like the sport that he's scared to book is MMA Live. He's like, no, nobody has an edge in MMA Live, the book or the better. It's just complete randomness. It might as well be a random number generator that you're all betting into, like a slot machine. So yeah, MMA, tough one. Now, does that mean it should or shouldn't have a odds screen? No, it would definitely have an odds screen. The problem we run into with MMA odds screens is, name 10 MMA fighters. Well, I know there's going to be a bunch of K's and V's in their names because it's all, a lot of your Eastern European fighters. But that doesn't mean that every book will display the names the same. Some will display the full name, some will display first initial, last name. There's a lot of mapping issues that are going to come into play anytime you put MMA on an odds screen. So it's a headache we haven't tackled yet. The next sport up for our odds screen has to be soccer. In 2026, there are 49 Super Bowls. Now there's 50 because there's 49 World Cup matches and there's one Super Bowl. So there's 49 World Cup matches, and each one of them has the betting power of a Super Bowl. Billions and billions of dollars get wagered on the World Cup. And this year, it'll be hundreds of billions of dollars. I think the world record for largest bet is still a World Cup bet that was $1 billion with a B. And it's going to be topped this year easily. So this is absolutely the biggest betting event in the world. We need to have a screen for it. I'm not concerned that we'll have all the World Cup stuff up. We will. FIFA is a very easy league to model because everything is like country name. When you get into a full soccer odds screen, you're dealing with different leagues, you're dealing with sub-leagues, you're dealing with minor leagues, you're dealing with three-way markets. All U.S. sports are two-way markets. This would be a three-way market because you could have the draw. A word of caution out there to anyone that's like looking forward to betting soccer. Soccer has about a 9 to 11% house edge because it's a three-way market. And nobody has really ever put out a three-way market that has less than, I think the lowest I've seen is like 7.5% synthetic edge out there with the house edge. The more entrants you have the more outcomes you have into a market, the more VIG's going to be in there, plain and simple. So, but we'll talk more about soccer in the coming year, but that'll be the next thing that comes to our odds screen. Can you see alts at Kalshi Poly? Not yet, but we are just about to roll out a new feed for Kalshi, as well as, you probably saw Polymarket launched in the U.S. today to people that were on their wait list. And so they're officially out of beta. And they have told us they have a different feed for us once they launch. Haven't heard from them yet today. Polymarket, if you're watching, Shane Copeland, who was just on 60 Minutes. He's used Unabated. We've talked to him many times. So look forward to our relationship with Polymarket coming up. I think we're going to have a really good feed for them with a lot of information that'll make our odds screen really hum when it comes to Polymarket. That was the next question. What did you hear about Polymarket's rollout today? Yeah, so far so good. Now, the big advantage to us as bettors is Polymarket has a much lower fee structure. They're starting out with 0.1%, I believe, for their fee structure. So that's pennies, literally pennies that you pay in fees as market takers and market makers. So look forward to that. It's not going to stay that low. It can't stay that low. If it can stay that low, I'm impressed, but I'm also a little worried because when you have a exchange with no or low commission, you're paying for it somewhere else, and you just don't realize it. So, yeah, definitely look forward to the pressure that Polymarket will put on Kalshi to lower their fees. We had a discussion yesterday. I forget if that was in general or premium general, where we were talking about the maker fees have actually decreased on Kalshi. I didn't see really that pop into the news. For a while, the maker fees for sports were the same as the taker fees. They've lowered down the maker fees by about 5x. So that's great for people that want to make markets on Kalshi. I also don't recommend you make markets on Kalshi unless you're going to sit there and babysit the market you made, or you have some kind of algorithmic trading using an API. Said it before in the Discord, but best line should definitely take into account the exchanges. Yes, it does. Exchanges are sometimes a better signal than BM, PM, Pinnacle, or Circa, etc. I think you're meaning the unabated line should take into account exchanges. And yes, it does. But best line is just the best line on your screen. Let me show that, because I'm sure there's people here that are watching that aren't premium subscribers, might not be familiar with the unabated line that's out there. And then you have your best line, which is judged against the unabated line. And then we have the synthetic hold, which is available to free customers as well as Props customers, Props Plus customers, where that'll tell you the two best lines, what the synthetic hold is for that market. Now you'll notice sometimes it'll have situations where, like this one here, Tennessee and Cleveland, it's a -4 and a +3.5. And if you were to take just -104 and plus 111, there's actually, that would actually be more like a 3.5% negative hold, which is going to show up in green. However, we show what it is with the half value points in between. So if you were to bet -4, -104 at Pinnacle and +3.5, +111 at Novig, you have an arbitrage of 0.26% in your favor. For just some people, that's worth it because they can bet big enough at those two books. For other people, that's like, oh, that's not really worth it. But those numbers are true, and they include, like, if you land on the, if the Browns win by exactly 4, you would push one and lose the other, so you would lose money. But overall, probability-wise, you'd come out ahead. Okay, let's go back into some points here, and then I'll get to the rest of the questions and comments when we finish up here. Because I want to show you guys one of the tools that I think gets one of the concepts of sports betting that I think a lot of advantage players don't do enough second level thinking on is the Wong teaser. Now, the reason they do that is because for a lot of people, this was the gateway drug into sports betting, was the Wong teaser. And I'll raise my hand. It was one of my gateway drugs into sports betting, because you had Stanford Wong, who was known for his blackjack card counting books and teachings and all this stuff. And he wrote a book on sports betting in 2000, 99 or 2000, right, which one it was. And he declared something to be the Wong teaser. And it was teasers that go through the 3, the 6, and the 7 are positive EV. And they are. That doesn't mean that they are the only positive EV teasers out there, and that, like, if you don't bet those, you can't find an edge. And so we built our teaser tool a couple years ago. And let me get my head out of the way again on this one, close the comments. The way to approach this tool is not as verifying Wong teasers. If you're doing that, you're too narrow focused. This is a great way to sportsbook spelunk. Sportsbook spelunking is a term that I've used many times. It means just going into every single menu in a sportsbook software to find what the bets they offer. And you see something, you go, okay, I see that at 5 other books. Well, then you can say, well, let me just check the price and see how it compares to 5 other books. Oh, it's about the same. Okay, move on. Then you see a bet that you've never seen before. No one's ever offered like this type of bet. Maybe there's an edge here, and maybe there's tools out there that can solve this bet. And you kind of think about it that way. You kind of go through the scientific method of hypothesizing and then coming up with a theory and then testing that theory. Uh, Teasers are a great opportunity. Anytime I get a new out, I go and check the teaser prices. And I check the teaser prices for NFL and college football, because sometimes they're different, and NBA and college basketball. When we built our teaser tool, we threw in basketball teasers because I wanted to show people just how bad they were. And then famously, and I've told this story many times, famously, we came across that FanDuel was mispricing their basketball teasers at the time. And there was a certain combination at a certain price that was totally mispriced and was resulting in you would get like a 10% edge on every teaser bet. And this went on for, I think, about 4 months, about one season worth of college basketball. And I contend we took about $8 million out of FanDuel collectively. That was my guess based on people I knew that were playing it. Everyone was trying to keep it a little bit hush hush. It was like one of those if you know, you know type of things, but the word was kind of getting out there. And eventually FanDuel, what FanDuel does systematically is they do reviews of each of their market types every year, typically towards the end of the season. And that's what got caught up in the FanDuel systematic review, is like, wait a minute, why are we losing on this type of bet? And so then they discovered their price mistake and they fixed it mostly. That's all I'll say about that. But we added the basketball teasers in there because I was like, we want to show people how bad they are. And they weren't that bad if you found the right pricing. And so that was kind of the genesis of this teaser calculator, is you can use it to find things in a quick and easy manner. We even added WNBA to it this year. I'm going to go through NFL, and I'm going to make a hypothetical that isn't true, but I just want to show you the power of it without stepping on anyone's toes here. So let's just say I found that Caesars had a 3-team teaser for, let's say, 6.5 points that paid plus 160, which up until I think this season, their 3-leg 6-point teasers paid plus 160. I think they now play plus 140 or plus 150. But let's just say they have a 6.5 for plus 160, which is going to be, that's better than most. What does that do to certain combinations? We know that teasing through the zero is never good in any sport. I can say that almost blanket statement truth. You're never going to get value teasing through the zero. There's just too much deadness around the zero for you to get value passing through it. But in this case, these are the live Caesars lines right now. And the best thing you can do with this tool is you just select 3 that could possibly be good. Take those 3 and it churns around and spits out, okay, Seattle -7 tees down to -0.5 is a good bet. It's nearly plus 3%. Okay, so on my notepad, which I've told you guys every day, I have this notepad. I've got 2 pages left on this one. I'm trying to make it last through December, so I have a clean cut on my notepads for the year. I'm going back and finding some spaces in old pages because I want to start 2026 with a fresh notebook. So I write down Seattle -7 in my notebook, and I move on to to finding the next one. So I clear those out. Let's go the -6 and the +7 and the +4. No, all 3 of those are bad. Cross those out. The +1.5, the +2, and the +2.5. These are going to be, some of these are going to be good. They're all 3 are good. New York Jets one is a little low though, so I probably would leave that out. But I would write down Jacksonville +1.5, Washington +2. Now, thinking back to how I just did this, I probably would have come up with a scenario that's different than being so close to Wong teaser, because the numbers that are going to be good are also going to be basically the Wong teaser numbers, which are good. I probably should have thought this exercise through a little bit more, but see, now we have some big ones. We have Tampa Bay -8.5, Denver -7.5. So you do all that, and if you want to see what your EV is on stuff like this, you can combine the 3 that you found that were good. 15% overall edge. Yes, that is true. How we calculate that is basically you're doing a 3-leg parlay, so we're taking the implied probability of each of these and putting them together and then comparing that payout to the plus 160 standard payout that you get, and you get a 15.2% edge. And of course, you're in the NFL, so it's a little bit more efficient market. It's a good edge. Not that you're going to find this, but let me just go try something different. What if we found a 4-point teaser? Clear these out first. Found a 4-point teaser that paid 5-1. Would that be decent? I'm trying to find ones where it will cross through numbers we might not typically know we want to cross through. I got 3.5 to a 7.5 might be a good one, or a 7.5 down to a 3.5. No, that probably wouldn't be good, but let's see what these come up with. Probably put a little too much juice on that there. Let's see what it looked like with a 3-1. Okay, so this is something that could possibly happen. Is you could find a 4-point teaser paying 3-1. There's a lot of stuff out there that you just need to poke around and find. This is another thing I typically do late in the week. Is I'll go through. I've got a couple books here and there that have some non-normal teaser pricing, and I'll run them through. And it's not necessarily running them through for just the NFL. There's other things out there, and you can find bets like this. Now, if I was a sportsbook trader looking to find sharp people, and I saw somebody teasing from the 6 to the 10 using a 4-point teaser, those are all things that don't scream sharp to me. But, they would be sharp. And this is not something you can typically do unless you had premium, which, again, the value of our data science of knowing half-point values implicitly across the board. Let's get back to some questions here and see what we're at. And if you have any more questions, throw them in there. I know I've got a list here to go through. But if you have questions, put them in there. Let's see, where was I? Exchanges, okay. Is the Edge Rusher tool doing these calculations, or is that a separate process and the calculator is the way to go? So the Edge Rusher tool is basically the same information and data science that you get with all the other tools with like the manual calculation. The Edge Rusher tool just gives it to you faster. So, in the case of, let's use the case study of first half totals, because we still have the on the screen integration for totals because the home team doesn't matter there. Let's clear those. So in the case like this, where there's a bunch of edges to be found in first half totals. I'm sorry, I'm in a premium only account, so I can't pull up Edge Rusher. If I was in my own account, I could pull up Edge Rusher for you. But it'll speed the plow, and you can basically sort these all and say, okay, give me the biggest edges first. Give me the edges at sports books that didn't move first. So one of the advantages of Edge Rusher is you can have it so that if Bookmaker is a market leader and they move their line, it's not going to show up in Edge Rusher as having an edge just because it's ahead of the unabated line. So you can exclude out books that move first. So you're really only focusing on steam moves. You're focusing on books that are slow to move, and it'll bring them up to the top for you. You can sort it out. So if you don't want any edges less than 2%, sort it out from the list. You can sort it out by age as well. So if you want to get edges that have only been there for 30 seconds or less, you're afraid of adverse selection, you can make sure you get like the freshest edges and not ones that have been stale and could possibly either mean a stale line on our screen, or they could mean adverse selection, which is often the case at like an exchange where somebody might know something. I noticed for CFB, a lot of the derivatives just get worse closer to game time. Yeah, well, that's going to be expected because markets tend towards efficiency. So as the market gets more efficient, the derivatives get more efficient, and also people, probably pick them off that maybe use our screen. What's the difference between Unabated and OddsJam? Well, that's a big question. I think if I were to point to some of the differences, I would say data science is the main one. We have a lot more focus on data science coming up with the exact right answer to something. OddsJam has their arbitrage tool, and their arbitrage tool will find things where it's -3 and +3. We don't have a dedicated arbitrage tool because often with arbitrage, you're making one good bet and one bad bet. And the good bet is often an account that will limit you faster. So you're basically losing accounts while not making as much money as you could be making. But if we had an arbitrage tool, we would have arbitrage things where one side's -3 and the other side might be -2.5, and that's, or +2.5. And that's still an arbitrage based on the payouts because we understand the data science of the half-point calculations. I think another big difference between us and OddsJam is community. OddsJam has no Discord. They had people complaining in the Discord and they closed it. I'm sure they have a good support department, but if you want to pick Alex Monahan's brain about something, it's not necessarily easily accessible. If you want to complain about something, there's not an open forum for that. There's a lot of complaints in our Discord, and we read it all and we learn from it. And I'm always on there. I'm on there 20 hours a day easily. So if you ever need to talk to me about something, you can. My DMs are getting a little crazy. It's like 70 or 80 DMs a day. So I gotta find a way to cut back on that because I'm basically just tutoring people via DM, and it's the same thing every day. People always ask me, why have you never written a book about sports betting? Because I write a book every day, and I write the same book every day. Like every day's Groundhog Day. I'm saying the same things over and over and over. These are things that I've put into videos, things that I've put into articles. So now that you'll notice a lot of times when I reply to somebody, I just link where I said it 4 years ago in an article or a video. Go watch that. Go read that, and you'll get it. But I'm getting off track. Differences between us and OddsJam. I think the other thing is like we're one of the only places out there that you can learn the art of sports betting. The science of sports betting is really easy, guys. It's not hard to become a winner. It's hard to get the money down, and we're one of the few places where you can learn how to sustain, how to scale, things like that. And so, yeah, I think those are the main differences, I would say. We get a lot of people that come to us after they've tried OddsJam. I don't know. I guess I don't see the people that try us first and then go to OddsJam. So maybe there's people like that too. I don't know. Okay, let's keep going. Jack, could you explain a round robin parlay? I'm sure you've probably put out a video for it, but since I've never done them, I want to know how to use them. Yeah, so I have a article. Let's find that article real quick. Round robin. There it is. I would say go ahead and read this article. I think that's your best way to handle this rather than have me stumble through an example. The round robin bet, the variance reducing parlay play. It's exactly what it is. It is a way to reduce your variance in playing parlays. I go through all the examples. By the way, Jason wrote this one, didn't he? Yeah, Jason wrote this, so I can't say that I do this. It explains how to do, what they all mean, and when you want to do it and when you don't want to do it, because this is a little bit of a tell for a sports risk management person. They realize that people often do round robins that are sharp because they know it'll reduce the variance in a parlay. So when using round robins, just kind of think about that. Another decent article that I think I should probably put into video form here soon is linked here, and I just noticed it. I'm going to pull this up because this is a really good article that I think more people should read. 5 sharp betting tells from your game. Again, this is all art of sports betting stuff. Sharps bet early. That's absolutely true. Sharps bet unders and underdogs. Absolutely true. Sharp bettors like round numbers. This is really true. Like the average person, if the line is minus 110, they bet 100, 200, whatever. Sharp bettors, man, we cannot stand coins. We cannot stand less than whole numbers. And so we will bet 110, 220, 165. And if I was working in a risk management position, I would definitely look for guys that are always very definitive on what they bet. Sharp bettors do straight bets only. Yes, that is true. And parlays can be good. Sharp get closing line value. And this is what a lot of sports books use to find sharp bettors, is see who has closing line value. One of the things I mention in here is if you are like following somebody for your plays, like maybe you're Right Angle Sports, college basketball or something like that, you will get closing line value that's not even true. It's just so many people piled on and moved the line that you probably get more closing line value than you really even deserve, because a lot of times the line gets pushed beyond where it should be. I do mention here in-game betting to avoid CLV. In one of my latest videos, we did the dark arts of sports betting, and we talked about how one of the things that sharp bettors do these days is they fake the closing line. In other words, push it in a direction it's not supposed to go in order to set up the algorithms that base the in-game pricing off of are a little bit skewed and can take advantage of that. Okay, get back to the odd screen here. Keep going with questions. Jack can talk more to it, but I think Edge Rusher just spits out the positive EV line, so it wouldn't be doing reverse correlation calculations. Yes, Edge Rusher is not basically telling you, here this play and this play, and don't bet both of them, just bet this one or the other. It's basically more of an odds screener than that. What would you say is the minimum bankroll needs to be to avoid risk of ruin? Risk of Ruin's a great podcast. Don't want to avoid it. No. Well, any bankroll can be a minimum bankroll that never has a risk of ruin if you're resizing it every bet. In other words, if you're only ever betting 1% of your bankroll, then you'll never ruin unless you get to a point where your bet size is less than what a sports book would accept, which I guess then would be it. But I think the question you're asking is, like, how many units do you need to have? How big of a bankroll do you need to have relative to your bet sizing? I've done a lot of videos on bankroll management and bet sizing because I know this is a frequent question, because a lot of people, when they look at sports betting, they go, okay, it's two things. It's finding good bets and then bankroll management. And as I've said already on this video, sports betting is two things. It's finding good bets and getting the money down. It's not bankroll management. It's not, and there's nothing in bankroll management that is an alchemy of some kind that can turn lead into gold. If you have a bad bet, you have bad bankroll management. If you have good bets, you most likely have good bankroll management. I have seen people that were positive EV advantage players that have gone busto because they got too over their skis when it came to their bet sizing. And typically they weren't sports bettors. They were machine players in casinos who were just betting too big relative to the variance that they were going to experience in the play. But besides that, my advice to you would, one, go seek out our videos on bankroll management, either in the education section tab of our website or on our YouTube channel, Unabated. And plenty of answers there. Minimal bankroll to just get started in sports betting. I have seen people start with $1,000 that now have a six-figure bankroll after just a couple years. They leaned into promotions. I used to tell the story of when New Jersey launched, because Missouri just launched 2 days ago. But when New Jersey launched in 2018, there was a guy I knew who wanted to get into sports betting. And so I said, go do all the promotions and bonuses as much as you can, as best you can. Go for it. And he came back. That was in June. He came back to me in December, and he had made $16,000 off of essentially a zero bankroll. And he was on his way. And if you look at our video on the blueprint for building your bankroll from 1,000 to 5,000, that shows you how to start with a $1,000 bankroll. I don't think you should. I really think you're probably going to burn accounts for not a lot of EV if you start that low. I would say start with like a $10,000 bankroll. And another thing about bankroll is not like, I gotta be careful how I term this because I don't want to lead people the wrong way, but bankroll is not just a pile of money that you set aside and only use for sports betting. A bankroll is the amount of money that you can stand to lose before you're, I'm out of it. I'm calling it quits on this career, on this whole advantage play thing. And for some people, they could have a $20,000 bankroll, but if they lose $10,000, they're done. They don't have a $20,000 bankroll. They have a $10,000 bankroll. Reverse of that. Some people could say, okay, I got 10,000, but I know I could probably find, this, that, and the other here to put into this money if I get down 10,000. Well, then you have a bigger bankroll. Kind of, it's like when a poker player is playing with money behind. The money's not on the table, but if they were to hit felt with the money that's on the table, they got money behind that's going to come into play. Yeah, bankroll is a very fluid thing. So we have that video out for the blueprint for going from 1 to 5,000. And by the end of the year, we'll have our next video out in that series, which is going from $5,000 to $10,000 bankroll. From 1 to 5 is pretty much just drill the promotions and bonuses where you can, find low-hanging fruit, find arbitrage situations. From 5 to 10, you start to get into more of the types of bets you make, where you're betting, how you're betting, a little bit of account sustainability. You probably don't need to do cover yet, but you need to at least kind of sustain your accounts. So, yeah, okay. So I touched on this earlier. Yes, the polymarket lines we have are from the international site. They said they're giving us a new API, but they needed to wait until they were live in the US before they were allowed to give us that. So, should be up here as soon as they give us that information. Okay. A lot of people replying to questions here. Will you be adding derivatives for football, basketball, and concierge? It only shows MLB. We do have football partial game derivatives, first quarters, first halves, second quarters, third quarters, fourth quarters. But I believe it is only totals. It's not spreads right now. Double check on that. But yeah, there is some edges to be found in NFL quarters on game day even. What is the barrier to entry for market making on Kalshi? This is a good question. In order to market make on Kalshi, you need to be a member of the National Futures Association. It's sort of like a club. And if you get approved to be a member, now it's costly. It's $50 a year in dues. That's what it costs to become a market maker on Kalshi. So once you're a member of the NFA, you can make markets on Kalshi. And I will say that if you want to get into their RFQ program, which is RFQ stands for request for quote. So if somebody wants to make a parlay, they put in the legs of the parlay and it sends it out to the people that are in the RFQ program, and they get to price the parlay. So if you think you can price the same game parlay better than somebody else, you can build a bot that responds to RFQs and offers up same game parlays with maybe a 20% edge versus the 30% edge that FanDuel has or something like that. I'll plug in here. The Unabated API can calculate same game parlay math and price it out. So you could hook in the Unabated API, get into that program, and basically every bet you make is like a 20% edge, and you're making thousands of bets a day. It's probably the quickest way to make $1 million out there. But you need to be able to build a bot, get in the NFA program. You got to spend the $50. A lot of people don't want to spend the $50. You need to buy the Unabated API, which I'll warn you now is not cheap. But yeah, a lot of things out there. But that's the barrier. That's it. And by the way, if you're in that RFQ program, you need to reply to, I think, 95% of parlay requests, RFQ requests. You can't just pick and choose the ones you reply to. So, I mean, you can make a bot that just puts out a bad number for the ones you don't want, or the ones maybe you can't calculate fast enough. And I think you need to reply within 90 seconds or less. Have you heard any news about Novig or ProfitX and their quest for CFTC approval? Yes, I got to think about what I can say semi-publicly here. They're both pursuing it. Profit is a little bit further along. Sport Trade is further along than them. I don't see either of them getting approved much before 2027, to be honest with you. The way into a prediction market now is to buy up an existing DCM. That going rate is like $120 million. So neither of those companies could afford that. You could partner with somebody that owns one, maybe that's a way to do it. But the CFTC application process has a thing that says it only takes 180 days max. I just don't see them being able to adhere to that 180-day thing. I know a company that's currently trying to pursue it. They've had their application in for 2 months and no progress so far. So I don't think they're going to hit the 180 days either. So it's going to be slow. It's going to be slower than I think they're even anticipating. But you got to get in line at some point, and so they're in line. What do you think the future holds regarding the CFTC model versus traditional sportsbook model? It remains to be seen. We got a lot left unknown that we just don't know yet. I do believe that we're headed towards some kind of Supreme Court decision at some point, because the states are all going to basically take it up to the federal court system level, which is in various districts. And if, those districts, like political wise, they lean in different directions. And so if you lean more towards constitutionalist state rights, you're going to lean more towards the states are allowed to prohibit somebody like Kalshi coming into their state via the federal level. If you lean more towards a federalist viewpoint, you're going to say, hey, the federal government has preemption over states' rights. And so if the federal government says this, the states have to do it. Those district judges lean in different directions, and because they were appointed by different presidents with different ideologies. So we're going to get to a point where 2 districts are going to disagree with each other. That's a fast track to the Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court's going to say, hey, Congress wrote this law. Congress has to fix it. Congress is going to go blah, 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 blah. They don't know which end is up right now. So it's going to just float around in Congress for the longest time, and it's not going to get done. So I think we probably have at least until 2029 with these prediction markets. And I think we may have some states that successfully block it through some kind of injunction. But in the long term, I don't think that's the solution that the government as a whole should come up with. There needs to be some more overarching solution. It really does feel like the Wild West. Can confirm Jack is on the Discord very often, answering questions all the damn time. Yeah, and we don't delete Discord comments. You're free to gripe, and trust me, I agree with some of the gripes sometimes. Sometimes we cannot offer the product that I would love for us to offer. It's just, there's always restraints in some of this stuff. The amount of money that we spend on cloud computing to kind of run all of this, because think of this, none of this is on your local computer. This is all things that are running in the cloud on servers. Astronomical. Like it makes me gag when I see what our bills are for Amazon Web Services and AWS, things like that. So, I contend we probably lose money on every single subscription. The numbers show that we lose money because we're selling a product that costs us more than what we sell it for. So Rivers has a reverse basketball teaser. Well, you can use the teaser tool to figure that out. Um, instead of putting in plus 5 points, you could put in minus 4 points. Whoops, minus. Sometimes you just need to do it this way, minus 4 points. And you can try that out. You might find something. Okay, a lot of comments here from JMC 4414. Yeah, so the tenor of what people use Unabated for is constantly changing. Right now, yeah, props are hot. Props are really hot. We have basically the only prop simulator out there. You can't go anywhere else and simulate out the distribution of a prop that I know of. And that's huge for prop betting. I think a lot of people bet props and have no idea that a projection cannot be used against a sportsbook line. Frequent viewers have heard me say this a million times. Prop projections are a mean. They're an average. And in DFS, that's all great because you go over by 10 and you get more points for that. In a sports book, if you go over by 10, you don't get paid any bit more than if you went over by a half a point. And so sports books have to realize that, and they say, well, we just want the point where 50% of the time it's going to go over and 50% of the time it's going to go under. And so that is the median point. And median and mean are not the same when it comes to the performance of an athlete. Because keep in mind, 0 is a big part of it, and you can't go less than 0. And there are tail distributions to the other side in the positive way. So if you have somebody that's supposed to get 8.5 points, they may get 0. They may get 23. And you need to figure out how the distribution lays out with such a long tail. And what that means is that the median is less than the mean. So the average is going to be a bigger number than what the median is. So you need to translate the projection from a mean into a median. And when you do that, you need to use a simulation in order to find all the different points of outcome. And also when you do that, you now show the full distribution of what a half point is worth. Because a half point in a person that is supposed to get 8.5 points and a person that is supposed to get 24.5 points is not going to be the same. And so you now have the full distribution, and you can price out alternate lines. You can price out when somebody's off of what the price should be, how far off are they, and how much is that worth. And that goes in two ways. So I think, and this is one key point I want to make, that I see the second biggest mistake people make in prop betting is a prop bet on something that is a very rare event, like blocks in the NBA, and a prop bet on something that is very frequent, like maybe points scored on a star player. The volatility is astronomically different. There was a question in the NBA channel the other day. Somebody's like, oh, I see you have a projection of 0.3 blocks for Dyson Daniels. He doesn't have a block in his last 15 games, but you have an edge on the over a half plus 300. Well, first of all, plus 300 is indicating a 25% chance, which is, just a 25% chance. But the other thing is, if you were to take that projection of 0.3 and you were to take it to 0.28, move it by 2/100ths, it's no longer positive V according to our screen. That's how volatile, always I'm not sure which word that is. That's how big the difference can be at low numbers. Whereas if you were to take SGA's point total, projection of like 24.3 and move that to 24.28, you're going to see really no difference. So keep that in mind when you're betting props. The lower the more rare the event, the bigger the volatility over, just the smallest difference in projection. Okay, let me speed up here because I said it was only going to be an hour. I've gone a little bit over. If you have questions, this is last call. Get them in there. While I'm looking for the next question, reminder, if you send me your receipt from something you purchased at Unabated today, I will send you a t-shirt. I'll get back to you and let you pick a size, which t-shirt you want. I see you've already got 2 out of 5. So, okay. Okay, good question here. What size bankroll would you say would be appropriate to get premium sub and NBA props? And NBA props. All right. Here's the thing about Unabated. Unabated is worth different amounts to different people because different people have different use cases for it. I have a ton of people that tell me Unabated is the most ridiculously priced item out there available for sale because it's so ridiculously cheap. I know somebody who they don't even look at the odds screen, yet they will gladly pay for Unabated every year because there's other tools that they can use, and maybe I've highlighted a few of them today, to make ridiculous amounts of money. There are other people that say, I just, look, I'm only betting $50 or $20. I don't think Unabated's worth it to me. That's fine. I get that it's worth different things to different people. So I can't really tell you like, okay, if you have a $10,000 bankroll, that is worth it. I will say that with the NBA product, there is a lot more to it than just projections. There's a lot of critical thinking, a lot of information out there. I know people that don't even touch the projections for the NBA product because they only want the news and information, the injuries, the lineups that we break faster than anybody else out there. And they use that to then bet game lines, bet sides and totals based on that information. So I can't really answer what the minimum bankroll would be, but I would say like it's really what time commitment do you have? So if you have the time to use the odds screen for hours a day or use the NBA product for when projections release or when news drops at like the 5 o'clock hour, if you have that time, you probably can't bet low enough for it not to be worth it. Like any, $10, $20 better could make it worth it to them. Obviously, it's worth more if you're betting more, but you shouldn't be over betting your bankroll with this stuff either. So now, if you don't have a lot of time and you're using Unabated to just pick off things, maybe 1 hour a day here or there, I have an article on how to use Unabated if you only have 1 hour a day, then you need to decide like, okay, well, how much do I need to bet to make that worth it? And to do that, you really need to do your EV calculation and say, okay, I have an average of a 4% edge. If I'm betting $100, that's $4. If I'm making 10 bets a day, that's $40 a day. If I'm making $40 a day, that's like $1,200 a month if you're betting every day. And so in that case, is spending $350 a month for Unabated worth it? And that's for you to decide. If you're not being able to make 10 bets a day, or if you are betting bigger than 100, or if you don't have a 4% edge, the calculus all changes. So again, the video Building a Bankroll from Nothing has information like this. And then, of course, using your own calculations to figure out how much EV you have per day, and the 1 hour a day video as well. Would you recommend PPHs for NBA props that need more outs? Well, yeah, because there are some PPHs out there that use the prop builder. You're familiar with that, Nitish. You can find some definite edges there. I think you're going to find with a lot of PPHs, you're only going to find points and rebounds, maybe assists. You're not going to find combos and all that stuff too much. Oh, man, this is the third rail question. Your interpretation on the way prediction market profits should be taxed as a gambling winnings. Oy. So I'm working on a video that'll come out the end of the year on what all your options are in 2026 when it comes to taxes. I'm not telling you this way, or this way. I am just going through all your options, including not paying what the government says you should pay. And then I have some tax experts that I'm making clips with that will corroborate or disagree or clarify some of those things. It'll be a great video. And I know what's going to happen. I put this video out, and then like 3 days later, Congress is going to fix everything. But one of the lingering questions is a prediction market, is that gambling or not? Because if it's not gambling, it's a financial instrument, and a financial instrument is taxed differently. Futures are taxed at a 60% long-term capital gain and a 40% short-term capital gain, no matter how long you hold it. Only hold it for 30 minutes. It's 60% long-term, 40% short-term. Your long-term capital gains tax, depending on your tax bracket, is typically 20%. Some people it's as low as 10%. And your short-term capital gains tax, depending on your tax bracket, is like 28%. Or if your tax bracket is higher than that, it's what your current tax bracket is. So it could be up to like 37, 39% for people that make a lot of money. For some of you, that's more taxes than you would pay if you made a gambling income. But the advantage of making a financial instrument is you can combine all of those taxes, and if you have a loss, you can carry over a loss year to year up to $3,000. But it's still you can deduct all your expenses and all this stuff. It's a lot more liberal way of dealing with your tax liability. If it's gambling, it's gambling. And so under the new law, you'd only be able to deduct 90% of your losses plus your expenses, lots of different things, no loss carryover, stuff like that. So I think for a lot of people, they're wishing it is financial. Be careful what you wish for. You're going to generate 1099s, whereas regular sports betting, you don't generate 1099s. So if you're somebody who doesn't account for everything, then calling this a financial instrument could cost you a lot more money than you think. But it also, here's my point on paying your taxes. You now own that money. Yes, you give a big portion of it back to the government, and what did they do for you? But you now own this money, and this money is tried and true, and you can now make this money work for you. And so, like, if you were to say that you made no money from gambling, and maybe your income on the year was like $20,000 or something you kind of put in there for something, and then you dump $100,000 into a investment account, red flag comes up right away. Or you try to buy a house, and you say that I've got all this money. Well, where did all that money come from? Because they want to see source of funds, all that. Whereas if you have it as gambling income, but you show that it was like a sustained amount year to year, that counts into mortgages and things like that. You might have to go to a few different mortgage lenders to find one that doesn't freak out about gambling income. But anyway, point being is, once you have that money, you can make it work for you, which makes a money multiplier effect. And you'll be much better off having that money multiply rather than, just hide it under a mattress or in a safe somewhere. I tell this story before, how I always wanted to have $1 million in cash and take my picture with it. And I probably cost myself $250,000, maybe $500,000 in opportunity costs and interest costs and all that stuff by hoarding cash. And I got like 2/3 of the way there. And I was like, what am I doing? Why do I have all this money? Like, these were all old bills. People don't understand, but like, money gets moldy. You need to basically keep it in a very non-humid, sterile place, or money grows mold like you would not believe, like disgusting, because it has all these germs on it and all these bacteria that propagate on the money. So you have old bills and they're moldy, you're going to have problems at the bank trying to cash them in. You can't feed them into machines because they don't get accepted because of the old bill style. It was a real headache for me for a couple of years of having to deal with all this cash. Not to mention, I was probably putting my family at risk, but they survived. Okay. Okay, so I think that covers all the questions out there. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all for attending. I hope this was informational for a lot of people and what some of the things that Premium can do. Again, we have the Cyber Monday deal, which runs through Sunday. It's a deep discount, 40% off, 41.3% off. The monthly cost, $13.99 for an entire year. If you can't get your money back, $13.99. It's $120 a month. There's so much in Unabated. You could probably find $120 a day versus VV. And look, my numbers that I track on my own prove it out that like there's hundreds of dollars of EV per day out there. I wake up in the morning. It's not like I'm thinking, oh, I got to go find this angle. No, I just kind of poke around, keep looking around. Boom, there's money. And you bet it. And sometimes you stumble across something that's really repeatable for a long time. So take advantage of the Cyber Monday. This is really the best price you're going to get this year, maybe even for the next year. And then beyond that, like if you buy something from Unabated today, even tomorrow, shoot me an email with your receipt to jack@unabated.com. By the way, don't try to Photoshop your receipt. I'm going to pull up the actual receipt because we have that on our system to make sure it checks out. I'm not going to get scammed here. And I'll let you choose from one of our 2 T-shirts. We got the "You Don't Know Jack." I like this one. I like wearing this one, but I can understand like maybe some people are like, get over yourself, Jack. And then we have our classic Unabated superhero logo shirt here with Unabated on the back. This is a nice one as well to kind of like, it's one of those things, if you know, you know. In fact, one of our years, our T-shirt on the back, we put IYKYK because if you know, you know about Unabated. And that was the one where we had just the yellow logo, because on our Discord, the gold logo, it means you're a member. And so we gave out members the gold logo shirt. And so if you know, you know. Okay, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. I'm going to try to do one more premium live stream that I'm going to open up to everybody on Friday. Maybe talk about the weekend ahead, go back and revisit some of the things I visited today that I say I typically bet on Fridays, as well as answer any other questions that people have about Unabated or what we're doing or where we're going or what's coming next. So thank you, everyone. Have a good day, and I'll see you on Friday.